welcome to this collab peer learning session. It's the second in the series that we're running with UN Women around eliminating gender-based violence and violence against women and using practice-based knowledge. So today we have the Foundation for Innovative Social Development from Sri Lanka joining us to share their work, share on some of their work. I am now going to hand over to Samita. And Samita is from the Foundation for Innovative Social Development in Sri Lanka. So over to you, Samita, and thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining with us today to listen to our story from Sri Lanka. I think before I start, maybe Chaturika, you can share the screen. Thank you. Today, actually, we are going to share with you one particular interventions that we have done with young boys in Sri Lanka in the communities that we as an organization have been working for some time. Of course, working with men and boys to prevent sexual and gender-based violence is a part of our comprehensive program on prevention of sexual and gender-based violence, where we take more gender transformative and kind of, looking at it from a more women empowerment perspective as well. So just before going into our work with young boys, let me give a bit of overview of our overall program, which is very comprehensive, and I'm not going to go into the broader explanation of our comprehensive program, but just to have a glimpse of how we have been, arranging our program throughout the last few years, because this comes as a part of a long-term project cycle that we are having in our selected communities. And we as an organization always believed in empowering communities, to giving the ownership to the communities to understand their issues and look at it from their own perspective, and then again to engage in more skill development programs where they themselves will be the change agents for their own communities. So in our community empowerment model, we have comprehensively looked at empowering women and girls for prevention work, where, we actually, the empowerment model that we have taken with women is more into developing a self-development plan, where women will have more focus on self-care and collective care when it comes to the women collectives that we are working with, because we believe that women themselves are as persons who have been facing the problem of sexual and gender-based violence, that they themselves are also agents of change in changing their community. So our work with women collectives in the communities is a very comprehensive program, a long-term intervention that we have been doing with a lot of success stories there itself. And also we have been not only working on prevention perspective, but also on creating response to sexual and gender-based violence, where we have also looked at mobilizing community-based groups towards, form them as a response mechanism for responding to sexual and gender-based violence, which we call vigilant committees. And also, we have been looking at strengthening district level service coordination mechanisms, where we wanted to link our community-based response mechanism with the divisional and district level coordination mechanisms to have a better service coordination when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence. And of course, work at the community level should be more engaged with advocacy, where civil society organizations, civil society networks organizing at the community level, bring their concerns and bring their perspectives into the national level policy advocacy. So we have also been part of mobilizing these civil society groups, networks, both at the district, divisional and national levels to work on the policy advocacy as well. And as part of this whole comprehensive program, we definitely have been having a lot of interventions when it comes to working with men and boys over the years. And there had been a lot of lessons learned and a lot of good practices that the program actually brought in terms of basically engaging men as fathers, engaging men as peer supporters. And also this time, we will not be sharing our work with men, but definitely with young boys, because, like our work with young boys had been there for many years, but specifically when it comes to COVID, the work with young people had to take a different form because of the fact that, we were not able to reach to them. We were not able to mobilize them, bring them together. They were more engaging at a more online kind of, platform where they were become more reserved and more to themselves. And we couldn't find avenues to get them more engaged with conversations with either themselves or with their own peers. So this particular program that we are going to discuss today actually came as post-COVID intervention with young boys and also young girls, where we introduced this particular program. Let me go into the next slide, Chaturika. And just to, before going into our topic today, just to also mention that most of our interventions in terms of prevention of sexual and gender-based violence are right-based. We highly believe that women do have the right to be safe from violence, and that is what we are going to kind of, educate people with. We are also looking at the aspect of intersectionality. It's not that we are working with one particular type of women or one particular type of men, but we are looking at a broader spectrum of women, men, and young people who are coming from diverse social settings, diverse ethnicities, diverse religions, and diverse gender identities. And the work that we are doing on sexual and prevention of sexual and gender-based violence, we always make sure that it is gender transformative, looking at how certain norms are being formed within these community settings and what kind of messages these norms are giving, especially to young people in terms of how they behave as men or boys or girls, and how they relate to the violence that is happening around them. So our work, we always try to make sure that it is evidence-based and that we bring these kinds of stories and share with others. And also the work is more take a more survivor victim-centric approach. And particularly this also after COVID, we have highly looked at the importance of having self and collective care components into our prevention work, because that was actually missing in most of the interventions that was done to prevent sexual and gender-based violence or engage women or empower women into change agents in their community. So we have now looking at self and collective components in a as a key component. Next slide, please. So today, what we want to discuss is the particular engagement that we have taken with young boys, where we supported them in becoming an accountable ally in prevention of sexual and gender-based violence. So this is a journaling program where the young boys were taking on a journey, a self-reflective journey, where they will look at how their own identities are built and how they relate to what it means to be a boy in a given social setting. So if you go into the Mentimeter, this would be the first question that you will see. It will allow you to give 3 answers. just feel free to put your answers. How does a self-reflective journey look like for you, if you have ever looked at it? Chaturika, maybe we can look at the answers while others are still giving their answers, so that others can see. Yes. So some think that it is about life, thinking about life, reflect on your personal belief. Sometimes, yes, it can be a critical reflection of our own identities, own beliefs, how we think about certain things, how we look at things around us. Discovering ourselves, definitely. Definitely, we can look at it from our own religious perspective, where we link to our own faith-based beliefs. And definitely, it's a journey towards accepting yourself. Do you think your self-reflection changes with your gender identity? Does it matter, like, how you reflect based on your gender identity? Your self-reflection journey, do you think it changes based on who you are? We have only one answer. Yes, definitely. All right. I think, yes, thank you so much for engaging with us in this activity. And let's see if how we have worked with young boys, whether it has any relationship to what you have thought about in terms of what self-reflective journey could be for our own selves, and whether it had actually mattered how we as maybe as women, as men, as people of different identities look at ourselves, and does it like differ for each one of us when it comes to different journeys that we take. So yes, thank you so much. And maybe we can go back to our slides, Chaturika. Yes, I mean, definitely we would like to know some of your experiences, if you like to share it with us. Just, how does that journey, the path that you took for self-reflection had really bring different experiences? It was challenging, yes, definitely. Could be scary also. I can relate to that. Of course, sometimes like a roller coaster, ups and downs. Definitely worth it. Yes, it can definitely make us more stronger. Yes, could be helping you to move progressively. Thank you so much. That was so engaging, and yes, I think that definitely will link to what we are going to discuss with you today, with the journey that we took as facilitators with young boys out there, and the journey that the young boys actually took along with the journaling exercise that we did with them. I'm asking you to hold on to what you have shared with us, and check while we go through this process, go through this intervention that we have done with young boys. How does that relate to you in terms of, like the questions that we have put forward? So this particular self-reflective journey that we have done with young boys through a journal, a personal journal that we have given to young boys for them to, understand and take ownership of some of the materials that is being discussed there, and also to get engaged in reflecting. So when this was done with young boys of 14 to 19 years, we named it as a journey to self-discovery. So that, the young boys who actually wanted to join was very curious to know, I mean, could there be that kind of a discovery? Aren't we already know who we are? Is there anything else for us to know? So all these, I think, brought a lot of enthusiasm, curiosity before they join with us in this program, and also in terms of how it matters to us as young boys. I think I'm just going to point out few things that we have looked at while we were discussing how this self-discovery journey with young boys would kind of move forward with us. We have understood that gendered socialization actually shaped the self-perception of young boys and limit their exploration of alternative identities that they have. And as young boys grow up, they internalize the gender norms and expectations, often striving to fit into these social constructs of masculinity. This internalization actually becomes a subconscious process that affects their self-esteem, self-image, and relationship with others. Young boys' self-discovery is mostly influenced by their interrelationships, their interactions with family, peers, media, and also positive role models and supportive environments. We know that we understood that with our experience with young boys over the years, that definitely positive role models and supportive environments can foster healthy exploration of gender identities and expressions of young boys. And we also understand that in this process, boys often face societal pressure to suppress or downplay their emotions. Encouraging these emotional expressions and providing a safe space for vulnerability can definitely facilitate their self-discovery process. Some of these actually came from our early engagement with young boys, and these have been our learnings while we were kind of, designing this journal for young boys. Self-discovery journey of young boys is always influenced not only by gender, but also by other aspects of their identity, such as race, ethnicity, socio-economic background, and their sexual orientation. These intersecting identities can definitely shape their experiences and perception of gender in unique ways. Encouraging open conversations about gender, self-expression, and identity can also help them better understand themselves and develop a healthy relationship with their own masculinity and helping them to be more accountable. So this, next one. Also, self-reflection involves acknowledging and confronting personal biases and prejudices. It requires examining one's own beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors to identify any unconscious biases that may perpetuate power imbalances or contribute to discrimination. And we also understand that within this process with young boys, self-reflection begins with developing an awareness of one's own social position, power, and privilege. So these are some of the understanding that we had with young boys over the years, not only with young boys, but also with young boys. But for the purpose of today's conversation, we have only brought our experiences with young boys. Next. So I will now, so that was the background, the understanding. Before we introduce the journal to young people, I think Malmi, you can share the link to the journal in the chat box so others can have a look at the journal as well while we discuss things related to the journal in the next few slides. So this is the journal. If you open that link, you can check out the type of journal. I mean, we actually gave a hard copy of the journal to young boys. Each boy had their own journal so that it becomes their own kind of, personal kind of a diary that they will connect individually. So this journal, we initially designed it as a 2-year process. And of course, before starting the first year, we have done a lot of engagements with young people, getting them ready to having that kind of self-reflective process. But I said that this particular intervention was initiated after COVID because we wanted to bring young boys again into the conversations and have more reflective kind of a environment for them, because they were like distancing themselves so much from their families, from their peers, from their colleagues and other social relationships because of the virtual spaces that they were kind of stuck in. So we introduced the journal in 2022. Today we are going to discuss our experiences over the last 15 months, and basically most on the first year experience, and also like how the second, their first engagement this year. So it will be like every year new batch of young people will start over the journal new, and while the others are following, and maybe some of them become mentors to the other people who are engaging new in the journaling exercise. So I will invite Chaturika from here to take you through some of the impacts that we have gathered over the last 15 years. This was for us also a very much of a learning experience. Though we have seen a lot of impact, a lot of results, we know that we really want to continue it and replicate this in other settings as well. But we are sharing with you the impact, the results that we have gathered over the 15 months starting 2022 January. So Chaturika, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Samita, for a very comprehensive explanation on what we have been doing so far. So I would walk you through the impact that we have generated through the journal. So as Ms. Samita earlier mentioned, that there are not just the journal for boys, that also we have also delivered the journal for girls as well. So this entire journey is not just for boys. They have gone through, both girls and boys gone through a similar journey of self-reflections. So this is the numbers. Actually, the very first, the 2022 and 2023, we mainly focused on the geographical areas where our projects have been located. So there are 3 main districts that we have been working with: Anuradhapura, Monragal, and Hambantota, and a few communities that we have been working with. So the first initiative of the journal start from the communities that we want. So these are the total number of boys and girls that we have achieved through the journals. After sort of piloting our activities, the journal discussions from the community level, now in this year we have been mainly focusing on even introducing these journal discussions to national level youth networks, youth-led initiatives, and even institutions where majority of youth are included. So when it comes to the impact of the journal, we have sort of divided or separated the impact in a few different aspects, the way that we have seen the transformation. So one is we have seen the transformation in promoting self-awareness. So when it comes to self-reflective journaling, this has encouraged boys to explore their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about gender roles and masculinity. By examining their own attitudes and behaviors, they were able to develop a very deep understanding on how patriarchy and traditional masculinity might influence to their actions and interactions with others, which they didn't think earlier. Journaling also have helped boys to examine their attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors in related to gender. By reflecting all these aspects, young boys gained a deeper understanding of how their thoughts and actions contributed to and perpetuated harmful gender stereotypes and power imbalances. This self-awareness served as a foundation for personal growth and transformation, leading to more respectful and equitable relationships. So I would take several examples from the journal itself. For an example, we have covered different aspects of self-esteem, such as finding their true identity, finding their talents and skills, and knowing the difference between egoism and confidence, loving their own bodies, personal grooming, having manners, unpacking emotions. So those are the few themes that we have covered under the journal. At the same time, right after each and every thematic areas, we try to include some sort of a reflective questions so that boys can answer for these questions from their own pace. So I would take one example that we have included in the journal, like, have you come across boys who have not yet explored their talents? Or what are the talents that you have neglected because they are feminine? So those kind of a reflective questions we have included in the journal so that they can answer honestly. So the other aspect that we looked into in the journal was challenging stereotypes, which we have seen the impact. So in this way, journaling have provided a space for boys to critically reflect on the gender stereotypes that they have internalized and examine how these stereotypes have affect their perceptions of themselves and even for others. So by questioning and challenging these stereotypes, they began to reshape their understanding of masculinity and embrace more inclusive and equitable views. It has also provided a space for critical reflection on cultural, social, and political and legal narratives and messages that support or justify violence against women and other gender-based violence. So related to this, we have also included different aspects of challenging stereotypes, such as surviving peer pressure, finding right friends, and even the reflective questions like, have you ever used power over anyone because you are a boy? Over whom? And how do you feel about it now? So those kind of a reflective questions also we have included in the journal as well. Developing empathy is another aspect that we looked into. As we know that the emotional intelligence is one of the major aspects that we should look into when it comes to boys, as they are more in covering their emotions and hiding their emotions. So through journaling, boys were able to reflect on experiences of people who are different from them, particularly those who have been negatively impacted by patriarchal structures. This process helped to foster empathy and greater understanding of harmful effects on gender inequality. It also helped to foster compassion in our communities, making young boys to be more sensitive to the impact of violence and to support survivors and take actions against gender-based violence. So developing empathy has also encouraged boys to consider the ways in which they can contribute to creating a safer society for women, girls, and people of other gender identity. So this journal goes beyond gender binary. It helps to understand differences, something we can relate to, we can help to look at in others' feeling. So the themes like kindness and compassion, embracing diversity, respecting diverse views, resist bullying, knowing that the aggression is not cool. So these things have help the boys who have gone through the journal to reflect on how important it is to develop empathy, to have an equitable society or a community on their own. So the next aspect that we looked into was setting goals for personal growth. This has helped boys to set goals for themselves in terms of personal growth and transformation. I can even share you some, the case stories who have gone through this transformation. They have even identified areas where they want to challenge the patriarchal norms, such as promoting gender equality, practicing empathy, or advocating for social justice. By regularly reflecting on their progress, boys were able to hold themselves accountable and track their journey towards embodying more positive and inclusive versions of masculinity and commitments to prevent gender-based violence. So all this transformation process actually reflect how goals can be set up at the very younger stage to defining their goals in adulthood, boy to manhood. So these boys will be accountable on their future steps, on their future actions as adults when it comes to gender just society. And even they have started it now itself. So how we have linked and why we see journaling is very important, because we see journaling is a sort of giving a very reflective platform for boys to learn and unlearn, and with the link of their own experience. So we see journal as a mirror of our mind. So as boys, the boys who embrace the journals, they mainly made this journal as their own body. So this journal became the mirror of their mind. Once they see themselves in the mirror, they can understand and witness their true self, so that they know what to do, where to change, who they truly are. And they become the critic of their own mind. They can gain the control of their own emotions. They can prioritize their problems, concerns, triggers, and fears. And it also have provided opportunity for positive self-talk and identify their negative attitudes and behaviors. So we have started this entire journey in 3 different phases. Well, we have started this journey of self-reflection actually before 2022, even before by the time of COVID, even before that. So, but through this journaling process, we have first started the journal, the phase 1, through the mobilization of youth camp. The youth mobilization has started earlier in 2022 as well, like at the end of 2021, where once we started the mobilization process of youth, we were able to get to know many aspects of the transformation that we should also include in the process. So as Ms. Amita earlier mentioned, COVID, of course, gave a turning point for this journal. At the same time, the parents' views that we received from the community also gave us a heads up on the urgency of starting these self-reflective journeys with youth. So the phase 1, the youth mobilization process, start from the 2021, the last stage of the 2021, and then the earlier stage of 2022. So first it was the youth mobilization camp that basically gave them introduction to reflective journey with sort of tools like Johari Window, My SWOT, Gender Box, Forum Theater, where they could really engage with sort of self-reflective activities and giving a sort of introduction towards it. And even parallelly, we introduced the journal to them as well. And the phase 2 was activity-based engagement. After having the journal, we had continued follow-up with them. So we had monthly discussions. It was mainly happen online, especially with girls, but we had to encounter some challenges when it comes to boys, as our district officers have been continuously telling that it will not be so practical to have these kind of discussions through online, because the boys are more tend to have physical and on-site activities. So where we had the mentoring sessions in both online and physical. So these are mainly video-based, activity-based, rather than being very, not like a very lecture type, but also like more of a fun way of learning. So these are the few of the pictures that our monthly discussions. So the phase 3 is the sort of a scene and impact on the self-reflection. So the boys who have been gone through this journey have been engaging in creating safe spaces in their own communities through youth-led campaigns and peer support activities. The pictures you see here are the boys who have been leading one of a campaign that they led in Monragala district. So this is about a campaign called My Mother is Smart, where they figure out that in their communities, women's digital rights are very less and they are not aware about their rights. So they took the initiatives to come up with, giving the basic understanding about social media or how to use the mobile phone safely. So these are the phases that we have been going through so far. But I would also say now that the journal is going through until end of 2023, this is still ongoing process, but still we can see a huge impact in the community as well. So the significance of this journal is, this journal itself is a story narrative. It's a story about a boy, a story about Chetan. So this is through the narrative, Chetan, or the person who is telling the story within this book or the journal, was able to become a buddy to the person who is using it. So Chetan explains how we practice self-reflection. He asks reflective questions, and he built constant conversations and trust building with the person who is using it. And Chetan technically become a role model for the person who is using it. So we have several impact stories. I would say case stories. So this is the story of Madhusha. Madhusha is 19-year-old boy in Monragala district. So he is a person, as he explains himself, that he couldn't practice patience, and he is very stressed. He gets angry for small things. But when it comes to the emotions, through the journal, he was able to reflect on his emotions. He was able to write his emotions. And when he got angry, he started writing on journal. And then by seeing the way that he the way he got angry, or he expressed his emotions, he was able to get the control of his emotions and anger. So now he has also become a good listener, and at the same time he has become a very engaging youth activist in our communities as well. So he was also, first he mentioned that he was distancing himself from the education. But after engaging with the journal, he got interested in exploring knowledge and learning. So he has also not forgotten to, engage with the household work, which have also, have gone into the very gender stereotype ideologies in the family. So now he's balancing both his education and the household work, and he's continuing his passions as well. So yes, this is the story of Madhusha, the way that he see himself. But we were also able to capture the change of these boys from the aspect of mothers and friends as well. So even Madhusha's mother.
We should also mention here that we are sharing these with their consent,
Of course,
and
of course,
they really wanted to share their stories today in this. Yes.
Yes. I forgot to mention that. At the same time, they want to share this story with their own communities as well to bring more people on board in this similar journey. So they were very enthusiastic to share their stories with us in this journey. So this is the story of Madhusha's mother. Madhusha's mother has been noticing the changes of him, how he has been handling his emotions, how he has been writing his emotions when he got angry or when he want to express his emotion. And at the same time, she is very impressed the way that he has been continuing studying, and now he loves to study, and he have identified his own talents. So this is not just the studying like the exams and all. He is actually now a good role model to their own community. So this is actually another girl from the community. She is also going through the similar journal-based discussions and the self-reflection process as Madhusha. Sashini is a friend of Madhusha, and Sashini has also noticed how he has been a very the person who is very introvert or the very hiding person behind others, and then now he has been leading a lot of youth-led initiatives in their communities, and his actions and have led to build trust among girls and boys. Now they are working together, they share problems, issues, or anything with Madhusha. At the same time, he has become a good buddy for everyone. So the very important point here Sashini has mentioned is now he doesn't even hesitate to say sorry when he does mistakes. So this is the sort of reflection that we want to see. So this is another story, the case story of Kavindu. Kavindu is also from Monaragale. He's a 15-year-old boy. So he mentioned that he's a quite a different person from others. So he walk and talk like a girl. That's what he mentioned. So he said because of that, he used to be afraid to go out in the society because people are making fun out of him by calling names. But once he started reading the journal and following the journal, he was able to understand and relate his identity. So in past, he was influenced a lot by society. He was discriminated a lot. But now he believed that his talents and his the passion can move forward. So now he even believed that the men and women and others should be treated equally. And he is also taking leadership in the community-led initiatives as well. So this is how Kavindu's mother see his change right now. So Kavindu's mother has been mentioning that there were a lot of bullying, discrimination against Kavindu in their community, but at the same time, she was also quite upset about the way he behaved. But once Kavindu has given the journal to mother to read as well, so she also got to know that the Kavindu's behavior is normal, and he also have right to live like other children. So she has been mentioning that he's taking a leadership in their communities without being fear to all the bullies or the fun that is made out of him. The Kavindu's female friend Heshani also has seen a huge difference in Kavindu as well. she has also, she noticed earlier that Kavind is a very lonely child because he get bullied in the school and did not want to be around children or peers. But Kavindu now is coming in front of the society without any fear and attend with social work. So Heshani has also realized she's also a part of our journal discussions as well. She has mentioned that she's a journal buddy of Kavindu as well. So now she has also realized that the Kavindu is a normal kid like us, and they are willing to have collective discussions with him. And when he teaches some of the lessons of the journals in the children's cup. So she mentions that he himself has become a good mentor for all of them. So these are the several stories that we have covered in our communities. These are the witness of transformation and how others see the transformation as well. So the very important aspect of this is, once the boys are going through this journal in our communities, even the girls went through the similar journey. So the ones who have been commenting here, witnessing the change of boys, are also the girls are also the ones who have been, changing their attitudes, behaviors towards it. So I would like to again hand over Ms. Samita on how important it is to, engage not just boys, but also for girls to witness this transformation. Ms. Samita?
Yes, thank you, Chaturika. Next slide. Right. So although we today took the opportunity to share our work with young boys, but definitely it was really inspiring going through this journaling process with girls as well. Because, I mean, definitely I saw that somebody has asked whether we could look at the differences in these two journals. I mean, if you go through, you will see the whole lot of differences based on how the certain socialization has affected girls and boys and people of other gender identities. And more girls journal take more addressing their vulnerabilities, looking at the empowerment model where they look into inner power, where they look into power with, and also and of course there are certain similar topics that we have covered in both journals as well, where we have seen that both girls and boys definitely need to go through some of these reflections. So please have a look at it. And of course, if there is any opportunity, we would definitely kind of, share our experiences with girls as well, maybe in the future, if you connect us with separately. So the journals are now being shared in the chat as PDF as well. So feel free to go through them. So, by saying that, I will, for the sake of time, I think I'll go to the next slide, where we would definitely need to bring in some of the challenges that we have had having this journey with these young girls and boys. So although post-COVID, we actually had a lot of requests from parents, from mothers. I mean, they actually wanted us to do something with their young children, to engage them in a different kind of exercise. But when we actually started it, and when the COVID was over, when children were again back to the traditional schooling, education, going to other kinds of tuition classes, all these hassle and bustle, parents also had their own kind of reservations. And of course, some parents initially had the idea that journaling is just a waste of time. It clashes with the studies. And later also the parents who actually was for it, they also felt that now we always see our children with the journal and they are losing their time for the studies. This is not going to work. So these kinds of, changing attitudes and, how even parents are affected by how other social, environment, things from the social environment, pushing them towards these kinds of different kinds of formal, informal educational aspects. We have noticed, I mean, because this journal was introduced to young people from 14 to 19, but we have seen that 14 to 15 years are the more interested and had more time engaging in it, while 16 to 19 are a bit more distracted because they were more into their mobile phones and all that. But still, we have seen when it comes to 18, 19 years olds, they were like, want to be more like mentors, want to support others, and do a different kind of role. So it's quite different how different age groups have absorbed this. Although some of them had been challenges, I think those challenges has also given us certain lessons that how we want to kind of move forward with these different types of age groups. And of course, there was this particular social norm that journaling is a girl thing. And that really sometimes, I mean, if you see the numbers of how we have worked with the journals, you see less numbers are with the boys. Because, you know, this attitude, the norm has actually affected, like they don't want to keep a journal in their hands, you know, because it's a girl's thing. And sometimes girls also like think that boys shouldn't have a journal in their hands. So all these are coming out in this process, and definitely allowed us opportunity, and we created spaces for them to address it within their own conversations. But initially, it was a bit challenging. And the other most challenging part is that we actually wanted to give a hard copy to each young person that is coming into journaling with us, because we again and again, we didn't want them to go into a computer or a mobile phone to do the journaling. Maybe it could have been more practical, but we have seen how these young people are embracing their own personal hard copy of the journal. So we have been, this is a very beautiful journal, and it really cost a lot in terms of printing. It has, you know, it's really, it has a lot of pages, and it attracts young people very much. But still, we are struggling with the cost, and, you know, like trying to find more supporters, well-wishers who wants to work with us on printing the journal. And of course, in Sri Lanka, we had a very hard time in doing printing. After COVID, the economic crisis that hit, actually, we didn't even have papers to print. So those challenges had been quite affecting the program. But still, I think we will try to overcome that very slowly, because this self-reflective process is a slow process. We are not in a hurry. Yes, next. So the other key thing that I wanted to share is the role of the facilitators. And we are more careful how we actually train the facilitators, how we set their mind to do this, and their own stereotypes, their own kind of social norms that they are affected with, the own baggage that they are bringing from their own social learning. So all these actually mattered in the process. So we were very careful how the facilitators are working on these things. So always ask them to be very mindful of few things, to know that boys face challenges in articulating their thoughts, emotions in a healthy manner due to the way that they are socialized, since they are encouraged to express emotions only through violence, sometimes through anger or even domination. And it is sometimes difficult for boys to engage in deep self-reflection and convey their inner experiences effectively. So facilitators need to understand this. And also, boys had internalized beliefs and stereotypes about masculinities, and emotions do force them to suppress their human introspections. They believe that being introspective is a sign of weakness, or that it conflicts with their own understanding of what it means to be a man. So these things we always debrief, we talk with facilitators. Next. And also to understand that without guidance and support from trusted adults or mentors, boys actually do struggle to navigate the self-reflective journaling process. They were unsure of how to start, what questions to ask themselves, or how to interpret their own reflections. So having a supportive environment and access to resources and role models who guide them was very crucial. So facilitators had to be very mindful, and whenever possible, we have been kind of supporting them to create that kind of environment. And also that boys had fear of being judged or ridiculed by peers or family members when they engage in these kind of activities, which is perceived as feminine or non-conforming to traditional gender norms. This fear of social judgment definitely can act as a barrier to self-reflective journaling, as boys may hesitate to express their thoughts and emotions if facilitators are not mindful. Next. Next. And it was also important to create safe and inclusive spaces where boys feel comfortable and that they comfortably engage in self-reflective practices. Of course, we always tried to bring girls and boys together in mixed groups, while sometimes allowing boys to come together and reflect within their own kind of groups. And also, like, we try to keeping this intersectionality in mind, we always try to make sure that that we are not separating different kinds of identities for different discussions, but always make sure that that we create that safe space where others can also mingle together. The whole process actually encouraged open conversations about emotions and barriers and provide constant support and motivation, and that is very important, and that is why this becomes a very slow process than we had thought of initially. And of course, I have just put a few key learnings from this process. There could be many more that we have not brought in today. It's very important to start the journey at very early adolescent period, especially in a digital world where it could be very distracting to this kind of activity. And it is also important to engage in both girls and boys and allowing them to have mixed group conversations on similar topics to help accountable allyship. And to understand that each boy actually takes his own time, own pace, and need a lot of patience. And starting from family gives a solid environment to practice inner and outer work, which would ripple down, which will have a ripple down effect on socio-economical model. And engaging youth have a higher impact on parents. This is where I think this is a very key, important key learning. We have noticed that, of course, mothers are the most important ones who have been very close to young boys and looking at them, what they are doing and the changes, noticing the changes. But we have also seen in certain families that fathers are also have started to change, because they just can't, hold on to their own masculine beliefs when their children are going through this self-reflective process, because they always bring those conversations into their family relationships. So that is very key learning that we have in this process. Journaling alone may not be sufficient to transform patriarchal masculinities, but supportive environments, inclusive education, and open conversations about gender are also very crucial in creating this lasting change. Also, encouraging boys to engage in critical discussions, seek role models, and role models who actually challenge traditional norms is very important, and allowing to participate in activities that promote gender equality will also, like we have noticed, that it enhances the impact of self-reflecting journaling. So these are some of the learnings that we really wanted to share with you today, so that you can also reflect on how this kind of activity can really help young boys who are in your own communities. So I think, Chaturika, so this is my last slide, right? Before we allow
Yes, this is the last time. Yes, this is the last time.
So I think this is the story that we wanted to share with you of a journey that we have taken with young boys. And if there's any questions, clarifications, definitely we would be more than willing to answer. Thank you so much. And I have seen a lot of comments, a lot of appreciation in the chat box, and a lot of people who have related to this kind of exercises. So thank you for that as well. Please have a deeper look at the journals and use it appropriately if you want to replicate in your own communities. So thank you so much. And yes, if there's any questions, any feedback you would like to listen to now. Thank you so much.
There are few in the chat box as well. Few questions. So one is,
Right.
do you face parents' unconscious bias regarding the journal?
All right. So bias in the sense like how girls and boys, I suppose how girls and boys relate to these journals maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do have noticed that. How they also like have their own biases, like, in terms of, especially in terms of the norm that journaling is a feminine thing. And is it kind of, really okay for my boy to have this kind of, like reflective process that, because it is not very, like something that they are used to in their home environments.
I would also add to that point, because when it comes to the journaling, we did not do it in separate, very separate, in a very isolated way. It is a part of our community empowerment model. So the parents who have been engaging with these boys and girls are also part of our community empowerment model. So they are also going through a journey like them, similar to them. We would not really say that it's a journaling process, but we have encouraged them to go through self-development plans. It's sort of, again, a reflective journey. So when it comes to unconscious bias, it has been mainly more of a supportive voices from parents after going through the entire journey. Yes. So there are also some sections.
We have a hand raised, Aniket.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm joining from Mumbai here in India. We are working in over here in a very similar age group. We work with 8th graders, that is 12 to 13, 14-year-olds. So this was very interesting, and I think it's a very new approach that we have come across, because I think journaling, even as adults, we also struggle a lot to do. But it is very interesting to see the learnings and challenges that you have shared. I had a couple of questions which would also maybe help us in doing our work. One is, what are the role of the facilitator in ensuring that whatever you have intended the journal to be used as, right? You have particular objective and intention of using the journal. How do you ensure, or what does the facilitator do at various steps? I know you shared 3 different, stages, but if you can share a bit in detail as much as time permits. That was one. And another is, since it's a community approach, so we work in schools, and when we go to schools, every person present has to be part of the program. Like there is no aspect of choice, which actually we would like to have. But since you're working in the community, how do you deal, if you do, how do you deal with dropouts, if any? Just 2 questions there.
Yes, maybe I'll start with the second question, because we have also been getting requests from schools because they have noticed that 1 or 2 children from their schools are having this journal and going through it. And we have also discussed this in our district forums as well. So what we have done is, in certain schools, we have worked through children's committees who are working on different other aspects, so that we introduce the journal to them, not to the whole lot, first to these kind of committees. For example, in Monaragala, there is this alcohol and drug prevention committees in schools, where children are coming together and make sure that, that they create awareness and all that. So we introduce the journal to these children's committees, so that they can understand it and maybe help maybe mentor other children. They might not have a personal journal, but helping them to go through that journey. So that is how we have looked at it at the moment with the limited resources and limited capacities. But we are also looking at training teachers as facilitators, where they could also incorporate some parts of the journal to some of the lessons that they are doing. You know, there are certain subjects which are very relevant to what we discuss in the journal, but it doesn't come within the subject, you know, that they skip those soft parts. They just go into all technical parts and so that's how we have looked at it from the school's point of view, and also other youth institutions that we are now approaching into. In terms of the facilitators, in each district, we at least have 3 facilitators who visit young people in their either children's clubs or youth clubs at least once a month. You know, like bringing children together and have conversations, allow them to share their experiences. And while they're doing that, we also like have a lot of debriefing sessions with the facilitators, almost like weekly, right, Chaturika? Weekly, because we also have seen some of the biases coming from the facilitators as well. So that's a constant conversation that we really need to have.
Definitely.
And yes, there can be a lot of lessons coming from that aspect as well.
Yes, thank you for that.
Similarly, having facilitators from the community itself is a very much of asset for us as well, because they understand the heartbeat of this youth, and then they are the ones who are sometimes coming up with very innovative ways of addressing all these aspects. At the same time, they are also sort of maintaining their own journal, like a sort of a profiles of these young boys and girls, so that when we continually doing the community engagement, they notice the changes of these girls and boys, and they track it, they write it down under each one's profiles. So yes.
Thank you.
Is it monitored by all of you, or is it something that they are doing on their own, or is it like informal?
It happens at all levels, actually.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have another hand raised. Yes, Mridul?
Yeah, I'm from Kerala. And, say about 2-3 years back, I was in the planning board, and we used to have a whole lot of this issues, you know, how to sensitize boys to and girls, of course, to the oppressive gender norms and practices. And so we had gender awareness classes and all that. And I think this is a good thing that you all are doing of self-reflection, and then, you know, boys and girls are thinking about all these things. But I was just thinking, you know, okay, individually I'm thinking, and maybe I'm also sitting in a community and thinking, but how do I make it into a collective thought which can bring about transformation? That's what we want. That there should be some change in the gender norms and, you know, these whole mindset of, I'm saying boys and men at the moment, because that's a harder nut to crack, you know. I mean, girls also internalize certain things, they're socialized, but boys and men are much harder. So in that sense, I was just thinking if there's any reflection on that, you know, and how to sustain this journaling. That's another thing I wanted to ask. Well, you know, I mean, is this an everyday thing, or, you know, they do it once in a week and then, you know, they sit another 2-3 weeks later. So some little practical things which maybe they just thought themselves out in their own way. But as somebody who's interested in bringing about some sort of change in this whole notion of gender norms and these oppressive norms especially, I just wanted to get your feedback on that.
Certainly. I mean, definitely we agree with you, Mridul, because as we initially said, this is not an isolated activity that we are doing with young people. So it's a more of a comprehensive model where we work with women, we work with the young girls, and we work with fathers, and we work with men as kind of, you know, coming into peer relationships. And we do have a lot of other visual and printed materials that we use for these different kinds of groups, you know, to kind of, you know, enter into this kind of transformative conversations. And maybe Chaturika, you can also share the link to our self-accountability video that we have done with males, because like you just have, it has to be like how do you say, multi-interventional, like interventions have to be multi-sectoral, multi-dimensional, bringing so many stakeholders together and having a lot of different activities going on with different people. So it has to be a kind of a more engaging model where we create that conducive environment so that people feel like changing. It's not that, you like stand there and see if people are changing. No, it's not like that always. But when we create the environment and if people feel more comfortable coming into that environment, and when they feel kind of worthy of being part of that environment, I think the change itself take within those contexts rather than we pushing it, like pushing the change. So that is how we are looking at it. And of course, definitely in terms of journaling, I think we are with the experiences, lessons learned, we are looking into developing different guidelines, like how the journaling can be taken forward by different stakeholder groups by themselves for the sake of sustainability. And of course, we are trying to digitalizing the journaling experience as well, not like, giving access to journal through computer yet, but of course, like how to understand journaling process, how to, like giving a bit of understand to the process, so that it's not always like if I get the paper or the book that I can engage with. So it's like we really need to think of a lot of other aspects, and there are, as Aniket mentioned, there are definitely dropouts, and initially, I mean, we just let them drop out and observe how other children are getting into this journaling thing and how they are coming into the conversation, so that if they feel like joining again, and I think for us and for them is to like create that environment for them to be part of the journey at any time they feel like coming into it. So that is how we have looked at it, and definitely I'm sure there will be a lot of more learnings and more things that we need to think in the future if taking this forward.
Thank you so much.
Would you like
thank you,
to
Samita, for the presentation. Yeah, so I had two questions actually. So one, Aniket already asked one about the facilitator. My other question was about the challenges of young boys and girls. So when they receive this support for self-reflection through journaling, so how do they reintegrate into the society afterwards? Like, what are the challenges that they face?
Well, I mean, we are very much into building collective care and peer support along with journaling process, because we know that although young children actually want to do their self-reflection individually, be on their own kind of within their own space, but we always encourage that peer support, peer engagement, and collective care model into the conversation. And especially when it comes to this accountable allyship. I mean, it's not that, like allyships, although we like it, it doesn't come as, single person thing. It definitely comes as a collective engagement. And peer support is definitely needed for an accountable allyship. Otherwise, I mean, it's really difficult to, like, in a society where, like, even boys are bullied when they want to become allies, and, like, when they are pushed to be bystanders. So all these things we have actually observed throughout. And that is why we always try to take that collective care model in this kind of aspects to give that kind of, create that kind of safer and protective environment for people who will feel so vulnerable. Right. Yes, Bianca.
Great. Thank you so much, Samita, Chaturika, and everyone at FISD for your support with this with the session. And thank you to all the participants for being here today. It was great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the interpreters, and we will see you all again soon. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.